Raging Echoes was undoubtedly the best iteration of Jagex's League's concept to date. They're really starting to show acknowledgement of player feedback and reduction of popular pain points, innovative relic designs, and accelerated PvM experiences. But there's certainly still a lot left to be desired. I'd like to quickly preface this retrospective with my region choices, Varlamore, Mauritania, and Fremnik. I know there were many other interesting aspects of other regions, but I can only speak to the things that I experienced firsthand. The main new gimmick in Raging Echoes was Echo bosses, and more specifically, the new Echo uniques they dropped. The uniques I went after, the Sunlit Spear, Sunlit Bracers, and the DK's Jewelry, were definitely some of the most transformative content in the league. That being said, the bosses themselves were pretty uninspired. My time at Echo Grotesque Guardians, and especially Echo Dagonoth Kings, was mostly spent wishing for it to end. Echo Soul was interesting, however, in that it allowed you to fight Soul immediately without dealing with any waves. That being said, the new mechanics were more like busywork than an actual new bossing experience. What I really wanted was to be engaging with spear and shield footwork and prayer flicking, like I would be in normal Soul, but was instead running around the whole arena destroying totems and spam-eating Chroms. As is true with most new concepts introduced in leagues, the whole Echo boss design pattern felt rushed and poorly thought out. The Sunlit Spear was by far the most interesting Echo item to experiment with. Its AoE typeless special attack opened the door to some very odd interactions. The Imbued Heart Grind was trivialized by simply nuking Araxites. Huicottle's tail paled in comparison to these massive shockwaves. Nilo's imploded at the mere sight, and Verzik was laid low atop her lofty throne. I really love new additions like the Spear that break open new possibilities. It allows you to look at old content with a fresh perspective. My mind was buzzing in all directions this league, trying to find new ways to make use of this coveted treasure. While I'm genuinely always impressed at the new relic ideas Jagex comes up with, there's also always something to be desired for how they're ranked and grouped. It feels like there's someone in the RuneScape lab cooking up some awesome new ideas, but then the intern is left to take this pile of unrelated concepts and somehow place them into a coherent narrative structure. The lack of theming and overall balance of relic choices is always glaringly obvious. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the nonsense I experienced with Golden God and Last Stand, but I'm guessing you did too. It didn't really feel like there were any real viable options other than the meta, which is a huge hindrance in the league's replayability. My biggest relic choice regret is probably Pocket Kingdom instead of Overgrown, but they mostly serve the same purpose. It isn't a fork in the road that was significant enough to make me want to double back and take the road less traveled. The idea of splitting combat relics into their own category of masteries so that normal relics can be more focused on skilling was great. The combat masteries themselves were a little bland, but they serve their purpose in making me feel powerful. Hopefully they keep going in this direction and find something a little more engaging than lifesteal and faster attack speed on the combat side next year. This league was my first time experiencing the power of the 2-tick scythe, and now I'm not sure that I could ever live without it. Bosses like Vardorvis, Vorkath, and Duke melted so fast that they would rarely make it to their first special attack. At a certain point, it doesn't even feel like you're experiencing the boss anymore, and this is a very welcome feeling. When I'm killing Vorkath 100 times per hour, I barely even notice the time spent getting to 300 KC. That sensation of overwhelming power is what keeps me logging into the League's worlds day after day. Places like Inferno and Colosseum are the best examples of this. At Inferno, I completely stopped using pillars and just bum rushed the Major while tanking every single enemy in my Justy. It was one of the first times I really enjoyed trying to speedrun the highest level content. At Colosseum, I still had to flick Manticores, but other than that, I would just charge into the pack with reckless abandon. Leagues does a great job of making intimidating content feel not just approachable, but even laughable. I honestly can't wait to get back to main game and put all this endgame experience to good use. This league is the third iteration of the region lock concept. As such, we've had access to both Misthalin and Karamja for 3 separate years now. I actually really enjoy some Sire in main game, but it really doesn't fit with the overall league's experience. If they plan on forcing us to kill Sire 300 times every single league, they're really going to need to do something to streamline this boss. I probably spend 10 to 15 seconds actually fighting the boss, with the other 2 minutes being spent running around aimlessly, killing Vince, stunning him again, and struggling to keep my eyes open. I feel similarly about Jad and Zook. Look, I get it. The Fire Cape and the Infernal Cape are iconic PvM experiences. They make you feel like you've made a giant leap forward in your account's progress upon acquisition. But I can really only stomach killing Jad 10 times and Zook 15 times, so many more times. If they want to keep this content as a core of leagues, they still have to innovate it somehow. It wouldn't take much to make the content more interesting. Maybe add a task for a ranged only or even magic only Zook kill. Maybe an elite task to complete fight caves using just a salamander. Moral Wreck is one of those places where they're relying way too heavily on combat achievements being the bulk of the interesting content. Skilling is generally the main focus of the leaguing experience from the word go. I've always really enjoyed focusing on maxing my account first and foremost, then using all the supplies I built up along the way on my PvM journey. Maxing in an accelerated game mode always feels like a rewarding and worthwhile endeavor. However, there have always been tasks for going even further beyond a max caper. In Trailblazer and Shattered Relics, which were Leagues 2 and 3 respectively, in addition to having an elite task for reaching 99 in every skill, there was an additional task for reaching 25 million XP. Having extra skilling tasks beyond maxing is pretty reasonable to keep skillers engaged in League content. In general, going to 25 million XP in every skill isn't a huge push if you're a rank chaser trying to hit front page. In Trailblazer Reloaded, however, they added additional elite tasks for both 35 mil and 50 mil. Having to reach 99 in every single skill, not just twice, but 4 times in order to chase ranks, is simply way too much. When I'm faced with the proposition of running Volcanic Mine for 30 plus hours in leagues just to stay competitive for ranks, that is my tipping point. I could deal with 25 mil in the slower skills like mining and woodcutting, but 50 mil is completely untenable. The primary gameplay loop for bossing in leagues revolves around KC tasks. I actually really enjoy the way they've meshed boss KC counts into average unique task drop rates. The vast majority of the time, I end up completing all the unique tasks before I've hit the final boss KC task. Conversely, when I'm 3 times or even 5 times rate on a unique that I'm hunting, that can be a death sentence if I'm chasing front page. I don't really know whether having unique RNG be such a pivotal aspect of being top on the leaderboards is good or bad, as slot machine RNG is such a core experience of OSRS. But so far every league, there's been at least one place that I lost 20 plus hours hunting a set, like Virtus or Inquisitors, which ends up being the specific thing I can point to as the reason why I could never make it to the front page. There's 5 specific places where bad unique RNG will completely ruin your league experience. The 3 raids, Cox, Tob, and TOA, as well as the 2 mega bosses, Nex and Nightmare. Going 5 times rate at any of these 5 places is almost a guaranteed rage quit inducing event. I'm likely never picking Moritania again for that very reason, since it's the only region with both a raid and a mega boss. It's the epitome of demoralizing when you're just smashing your head against a brick wall and none of the bricks are moving. But then again, I've also never experienced that sensation of getting crazy spooned and watching my rank skyrocket to the top. Always next year, am I right? I get that combat achievements are still relatively new content and Jagex wants more people to engage with them, but the amount of points available and the speed at which you can get them makes CAs basically unavoidable. The main theme of leagues has always been choosing your own path and being allowed the space to skip content you'd rather not engage with. When you make one form of content vastly more abundant than the others, it becomes essentially mandatory. The style of the CA tasks is also as generic and lazy as possible. Simply, insert boss name here, combat achievements. It really wouldn't kill Jagex to come up with some unique league-specific PvM challenges of their own. Slayer has always been a huge focus for global tasks, and I really don't know why. Every league has had some relic tier where you make a choice between buffing specifically Slayer or Clues. This league was the first time I actually chose Slayer over Clues, because I had access to the Slayer helm, but in general, the Clue relic is almost always more viable. If I didn't have a Clue compass, I probably wouldn't have chosen Slayer. The Dust and Mist Battle Staff, Eternal Gem, and Imbued Heart tasks probably aren't going anywhere anytime soon, unfortunately. Let's talk about clues. Personally, I'm a clue hater. It's some of my least favorite content in the entire game. That being said, the clue compass was a real breath of fresh air. Your normal cluing experience is actually a very mentally involved process. Step 1. Read Runelite Clue Hint for location. Step 2. Figure out your best teleport to get there, maybe after searching a global map. Step 3. Go to bank to grab teleport item or any relevant items. Step 4. Teleport close to clue and run to location. Step 5. Actually complete clue step and repeat. As a seasoned OSRS grinder, I'm constantly looking to make the content I'm engaging with as brain dead as possible. That way I can focus my attention on my second monitor, which might have a movie, video, or audiobook running. With the Clue Compass, I was finally able to have a brain-dead cluing experience like I've always dreamed. The process to solving clues with the compass goes like this. Step 1. Click Read on Clue without actually reading it. Step 2. Click on Clue Compass, which immediately dumps you onto the clue step. There are exceptions, of course, but in most cases the compass successfully removed all of that obnoxious friction between steps for clue solving. The most notable difference in clue tasks this iteration was in the removal of clue milestone reward tasks. Last league, even with the clue relic, I spent over a week mindlessly solving hundreds of each clue tier, just for those milestone rewards. Clues and leagues are currently in the best place they've ever been by a mile. Overall, I'm actually quite impressed with Jagex's ability to shift the league's landscape with incremental, stimulating innovations, while still maintaining that core gameplay loop we've all come to know and love. Gone are the days of 1,000 Brimhaven agility tickets and 600 beginner clues. Let's hope they never come back.